I'm in I'm in the East Coast Nature Reserve, and it's quite early in the morning. It's it's just 8:30, not too bad. But people do come down here, and when there's a lot of people, they scare the wildlife. And when there's a lot of people off work at the moment because of COVID-19, there's a lot of people coming down here. Anyway, I'm just looking at some mud, and as you can see, there's lots and lots of human footprints here of all kinds, which there's even a bicycle track in there. There's not supposed to be bicycles on the nature reserve, but here you can see, and this is only quite fresh. Now that's the footprint of a deer, and it'd be quite a large deer, I'd say. Stag. Just put my own foot in next to it, because they walk on, as you know, long thin legs. There's a lot of mosquitoes biting, so I'm being eaten alive. But anyway, there say a deer, or there's a few deer around, and because it's still early in the morning, and that track seems to have been superimposed on some of the human tracks, which must be from yesterday. So I've a chance of seeing a deer around, or maybe a small herd. And there'll be, of course, Japanese Sika deer, which were introduced to Ireland in the early part of the last century, or late part actually of the 19th century. And some of them actually crossbred with the red deer, so we have a kind of, in Wicklow, we have a kind of a weird hybrid between the Japanese Sika, which Sika means deer. Shika is the exact pronunciation in Japanese. So it's the deer, the Sika deer. But there's a good chance I might see some. In Wicklow they crossbred with the native red deer, which then went extinct. So we have a kind of a hybrid, and it's not really a hybrid, because the strange thing is, biologically speaking, the Japanese Sika and the red deer, although classed as separate species, are in fact genetically very almost similar. Like they have a common ancestor. They're more maybe a subspecies than a species, which is why they're able to produce young, which are themselves able to produce young, which, as you know, a mule can't do, or which is a cross between a donkey and a horse. So they are quite different, but it could be largely cultural. Creatures on islands tend to shrink, and the Shika seems to have actually shrunk, whereas the red deer got larger. But of course, Ireland's an island, and the largest red deer in Eurasia are found in Ireland, in the west coast, and Killarney National Park and Connemara National Park. And they have another relative, which is the American elk, which is technically as different from a red deer as a Sika is. But the American elk is way bigger. So there's a lot there. You need to study the theory of biogeography, or island biogeography. It explains a lot about these things, but that's all science. We're here just for a nature walk, and there's some interesting creatures up ahead. I'll see what I can find, hopefully a deer. Here's the footprint again. There's lots of bird call. I have no idea what I might find today. Very exciting.